Peace, 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 peace. Hope everybody doing good today. I know it's late. I hope you guys up with me. You know, just want was thinking about some things, and I had been thinking about my, I guess I would say my journey as a trucker. Now, keep in mind now, being someone that absolutely despises drive. However, would I find myself, let alone drive a freaking truck, right? So all my life, I've always had this thing about driving. I hate driving, so get in the car. I hate driving, so if going somewhere, I will want somebody else to drive because I myself can't get with the driving. So now it leads me to how in the world did I end up driving a truck? So I'm gonna tell you. So if anybody here like, share, and subscribe to the page. So honestly, getting into trucking was something that I've never really thought or even ever gave myself the thought to do. It was never something that I set out to do. In fact, I believe trucking probably was something that I got into because at that point I wanted to try something different. The job that I was in, uh, I really didn't see a a future there, right? Although it was a government job, but I didn't see myself progressing any further in the job, if you will. So with my love for traveling, and growing up with traveling, so we never really traveled anywhere as children. So when I got old enough to the place where I wanted to travel, I started to do a little more traveling, but not as much. But kind of fast forward back to trucking. So I decided to come into trucking. Like I said, this was something that I probably never would have gave myself the, never would have thought I'd be finding myself doing. Never thought in a million years that I'd be driving a truck. But like I said, let's keep going. So I decided to get into trucking. Like I said, after the job that I was doing, really couldn't see a future there. So I felt stuck. And at this point, the brother and I, somehow he convinced me to start truck driving school. So instantly, I got the opportunity and I called around to some different truck driving schools. So I actually started at one trucking school. So I failed. I was distraught, just telling myself that, well, maybe trucking is not for me. And so I never forget this one instructor. He whispered something to me. He said, "Hey, man, look, go to this particular school, and I promise you, they'll give you a little more hands-on, and you'll pass." So I took those words from their brother, and I went to this truck driving school. And lo and behold, I went through the school, went through the process, went with my trainer. My trainer was absolutely amazing. Mr. Clarence Pendleton, I never forget, he taught me some great things. He was kind of hard, kind of stern, but with the job, I understood why he was stern and why he was hard because as a truck driver, not only are you responsible for your safety, but you're also responsible for the safety for other people. So he was kind of hard on me, because he wanted me to succeed, and also not only that, he wanted me to make sure that I was keeping myself safe as well as the people that share the road with me. So got into trucking. At first it was difficult, being away from home, being on the road. It was different. It was different. But I made it through it, which brings me to my current video now. As I stated, trucking absolutely changed my life. Not only am I saying it from a financial standpoint, but I'm also saying it from a standpoint of fear. So sometimes we get into a place where we get fearful. Trucking has single-handedly removed that fear from me. Because you get in situations where you have to adapt to certain situations. So therefore, because you have to adapt to certain situations, it removes that level of fear that you have or that you had in a particular thing. Because either you're gonna sink or you swim. Either way, you got to get through it, right? So that's what trucking has brought me. Trucking got me to that place where I no longer fear the things that I don't understand in a sense. Because I understand that no matter what, I got to get through it. And I'm gonna tell you, no matter what, you have to get through it. So whatever it is in life that you fear, just go through it. Just do it. Just do it. You know, and if you're listening and you're at a place where you don't understand life at this point, you feel like their life is stagnant at that moment, try something different. Because you never know what you like until you try something. My mom would always say, may God rest her soul. She would always say, try your hand in a little bit of everything because you never know what it is that you like until you try it. So if you're out there and you're thinking about trucking, I will tell you first, research the job or research the company that you're trying to go to. And I would also tell you, if you're willing to be away from home, if you have a family and your family can thrive without you being there, all the time, if you trust the person that you're with, because that's a big thing too. So if you're married in a relationship and you're thinking about getting into trucking, you have to make sure that you're with somebody that you trust, because it's a lonely road being in a relationship with someone that you don't trust and you're on the road. It almost never works because for one, you're gonna be worrying about what this person doing while you're on the road, and you're not gonna trust what they tell you. So if you're thinking about coming out here in your relationship with someone, make sure that you guys talk about what you're going to do and you trust each other, because that's the name of the game. Because you have to trust the person that you would, and the person that you would have to trust you out here, because it's a lot of temptation, not just temptation here, but with your person at home, it's temptation there as well. Because why? You're not there. You know, what if your person want to be next to you? You're not there. After so many times wanting to be next to you and you're not there, what's going to happen? They're going to get lonely. They're going to go find something to do. In the midst of them finding something to do, they may find someone else. So those are some of the things that you also have to prepare yourself for, because those are things that could possibly happen while you're trucking, right? So again, if you are interested in trucking, there are some things that you have to ask yourself. Like I said, you have to ask yourself, you know, if you're willing to stay out, if you're willing to be away from home, if you're willing to miss birthdays, if you're willing to miss holidays, if you're willing to miss all of these things, then hey, trucking is for you. Once you get past all of those things, trucking is a wonderful career. You know, seen things, I've seen things that I thought I would never see doing this job. I've knocked several things off my bucket doing this job. Some things, it's a wonderful career. It's something that you can be proud to do because you bring a service to people. You bring something that people actually need. So you're an essential worker. Because of trucks, everything and everybody everywhere are able to function in their day-to-day life because of people that drive trucks. So it's an honorable career. You know, like I said, if you ever want to do something different, hey, trucking is a wonderful career. So I'm here. I'm in America. So you ask where you from? So I'm in America. But yeah, so like I said, I just dropped in just to kind of touch bases with everybody. So I hope you guys like the video. Share the video, like, share, and subscribe if you're not already subscribed to my page. Like I said, I'm new to the YouTube space, trying to about trucking because that's what I do every day. You know, I truck with my wife. So, and yet again, and see, and that's another aspect of the job. So I'm able to stay out because my spouse is with me. So again, and it goes back to what I said earlier. So if you are trucking or thinking about trucking, make sure you find someone that understands the game as a trucker, and make sure you get someone that trusts you as a trucker. So I pray and I hope everyone have. So I pray and I hope everyone have a wonderful rest of your day. And like I said, do not subscribe, like, share, subscribe. And until next time, peace, peace, peace.